There is a logical next step in a world increasingly populated by digital natives, the convergence of media and education, bringing world-class learning to every corner of the new connected world. Sesame Workshop has been pioneering electronic learning, edutainment, as it is sometimes called, since the early days of television. I think we're all very familiar with that. As some of you may know, the company and one of its iconic characters, Big Bird, last week became embroiled in all things you can imagine, the US presidential election campaign, as part of a debate about public television funding. Melvin Ming, Sesame's Workshop CEO, won't be able to join us unplanned. He's had to stay behind in New York to help respond to the controversy. But through the magic of satellite technology, he will be joining us anyway. Along with Sesame Workshop's International Vice President, Robert Knezevic, they'll talk with John Defterios, host of the Abu Dhabi-based nightly business news program, The Global Exchange.
Good. Thanks very much, Mariam, for the kind introduction. And good afternoon to everyone here to discuss not only the future of public television in America, but the future of Big Bird and the whole entire family. Right? So before we get started, I was going to ask Melvin on the satellite, does he have Big Bird and Ernie and Elmo in his office closet locked up? I'm not sure if he can hear me yet or not. So I know we have a 4-second delay, but that's going to be one of my questions. It's nice to...
John, thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, John, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I have you back. There's a 4-second delay, so I'm sure we'll get through to that.
Well, as I stated, I could not come because I could not get permission from Big Bird
لم أحصل على إذن من البيج بيرد لأن أصل إلى أفضل مدينة وأشهر مدينة على هذا الكوكب. أشكركم وأنا أطمنكم على البيج بيرد وهو اعتاد أن يجذب الانتباه ولكن ليس لهذا الحد. أنهم يقومون عملهم وهو ربط الأطفال بوسائل الإعلام والإنترنت.
Okay, so the format here is nice to have Melvin joining us via satellite. We have Robert Knezevic, who runs international for the Sesame Workshop. There's two kind of sets of themes that we want to cover here. Number one is a quite healthy debate that we're seeing in America right now about the funding for public television. You've all seen how it was embroiled in the US presidential debate, the first of three, with Mitt Romney and President Barack Obama. It has evolved for the purposes of our story, if you will, for the Abu Dhabi Media Summit. I kind of think that Wayne Borg and his group with Noor Al-Kabi are behind this because there was a commercial released into the US market yesterday by the Obama camp, basically saying that the attacks by Mitt Romney should not focus on Sesame Street, but the focus should be on reforms on Wall Street. So the tenor of the debate has gone up a little bit more. I'm a father of 2 children here in Abu Dhabi. They go to the British school, Al-Kubarat, and I think Melvin and both Robert can appreciate this. The 9-year-old now is editing a segment on Socrates on a desktop video editor with voiceover, intermingling graphics already at 9, and I've never seen her so engaged and so happy to be learning in that sort of environment. In our pre-debate discussions that we had here, we talked about how best to reach children, not only in the classroom, but also after school, because so many parents are working today in the after-school environment, which is not in the home, and again, engaging them in the home, not only on television, but through interactive discussions as well, and interactive devices like the iPad and other laptops of the world. So that's part of our discussion today. We have a good 20 minutes left, 22 minutes to have the discussion. I'd like to cover with Mel, and Mel, if I can have you look directly into the camera, it would help us in terms of the discussion here. The debate that we see right now. So let's try to clear it up, because many people asked me to pose this question to you before we got to the stage. And that is, the first issue was that Mitt Romney suggested that PBS funding needed to be cut. He signaled out Big Bird in that process. But number two, we now see a political ad on the market from the White House suggesting the focus should be on Wall Street and financial reform and not on Sesame Street, that the target is wrong, that the funding cuts would not help bring down the budget deficit. Have you asked as an organization for the White House to pull the ad? And what's the response been so far to that request?
John, we, as a non-profit organization,
كمؤسسة غير
NGO,
ربحية
are non-political.
نحن
Our
غير
practice and our
سياسيين
policies are that we do not lend our assets for any political use. We don't endorse candidates, and we do not permit our assets, particularly our Muppets, which are teachers, to be used in political ads. So we gave notice to the White House, or to the Obama campaign, that the use of our Big Bird was a violation of our ethics and not good. They did not have permission, and we didn't see how fair use was being appropriately used here, applied here. So we requested that ad not be run any further. It was being considered as of last night, New York time. I checked my internet this morning. I did not see it, so I hope they have adhered to it. But this practice of ours is essential and required because we cannot let our Muppets do anything that if a child saw a teacher do, the child will be disappointed. So we do it for any party because we are non-political and because our aim, our goal is to reach every child in America with educational rich media so that that child can reach his or her highest potential, and we don't contaminate that with too much of anything. It's the balance that is important. Now, the place of Big Bird in this debate or in this controversy is, I think, interesting. Why Big Bird? Big Bird is a symbol of the commitment of a generation or two in the U.S. to have commercial-free television as that first school for preschoolers. So even though every preschooler 40 years ago was not in a preschool setting, most of them were at home. Today, in America, most of the preschoolers are out of home by the age of 3. They're in some sort of school setting. And at Sesame Workshop, our commitment is to be where the children are, with the media that can help them grow and learn. And that's what we're doing, and that's why we're telling all politicians the investment should be in young children being school-ready, being life-ready, and that is a non-partisan issue, but it is also a moral obligation to give every child in America the opportunity to get an education and to go as far as they can to succeed.
Let me follow up on that. Why is the presidential candidate, Mr. Romney, picking on Sesame Workshop and specifically Big Bird? You only get 6% of your overall funding from the federal government. Is it necessary to single out a product that actually works? And would you be happy to let that funding go?
John, the facts in some quarters they do not matter. The fact is that 6% is not federal money that comes directly to Sesame Street for Sesame Workshop for Sesame Street. We do multiple projects, such as the Electric Company, which is a literacy-promoted learning program for 6 to 9-year-olds. And we've received more money for the Electric Company project than we've received for 5 years for Sesame Street. Now, we think the model of Sesame Street is a perfect example of a public and a private partnership where initially government funding permitted a match with private funding, and then what Sesame Workshop was able to do was to find an economic model where it could sustain its operations and therefore not be dependent on any subsidy from the government. However, Sesame would not be successful if the government support of local broadcasting was not in place. We can make great content, but if somebody does not connect that with families and children, then our content goes on a shelf and is not effective. What the federal subsidy does, it permits local stations to acquire programming from the PBS system and thereby connect Sesame Street and other programs with local homes and communities. So yes, we need federal support, but we need it for the connection of our content to children and to communities. We don't need it necessarily to produce and complete the creation of Sesame Street. However, again, I would love to have more funding so that we could actually program Sesame Street for 260 days a year with a particularly tailored content that will make use of technology so that we could individualize more the learning for every child. This is possible.
This is not a new debate in America. This goes back to the Bush administration and the fight with PBS going back to 2005. Is there not a spirit to support public broadcasting? Is the spirit to support public broadcasting in America gone, and they don't see the value of not just the programming, but of the platform itself, which has that terrestrial distribution?
John, I heard most of your question, but I'll respond to what I did here. There is well, here's the evidence. During the debate, there were more tweets on Big Bird than any other word mentioned. There were 17,000 tweets per minute. Recognizing the power of social media, and not everyone is enrolled in social media, but that gives an indication of the interest. Subsequently, with all the press and even the ads, there has been a recognition of the place of Big Bird in American society, its value, his value as an icon, as a teacher, particularly for children who do not vote, children who have no voice, children who may not even have satellite access, but through PBS can be exposed to and connect with Sesame Street and other such programs. So we believe we are seeing an outpouring of support for the institution of public broadcasting because it is a connector with every community in the U.S. and potentially every child in our land. So what the politicians do with that later remains to be seen, but from where I sit, I think the messages have been Sesame Street is important because it is a program designed to get our children ready for school, ready for life, and if it is not being connected with those children, we are being unjust, unfair, and more importantly, unwise.
The final point I was going to suggest here, and then we'll move on to the internationalization of products like this and bring Robert into the conversation. But the reality is that Big Bird and the entire family have become a political football here. But does this fit into the category that all publicity is good publicity, and it'll step up the debate to support public broadcasting and Sesame Workshop in the end?
I'm of the school that I also believe that all publicity is good if you can use it to good. We are hopeful that the debate will move from the political football or the hot potato that it currently is to what is the rightful place for television and other media in getting a young child school-ready, life-ready. Now, we know that there are 4 components needed to get a child ready to learn, ready for school. One is curriculum, one is technology, another is teacher, and the other is family or adult engagement. We believe public broadcasting should be preserved and should be even increased in its impact because it can connect every community, irrespective of their technology and their access to new kinds of media, broadcast media, such as satellite and a cable. So through the vehicle of public broadcasting, we can actually create in the U.S. something that Sesame Street has been doing for the past 43 years. Essentially, a classroom without walls for preschoolers. We think that is of high value and should continue, and I'm hoping, we are hoping at Sesame Workshop, that the debate and the conversation will be, how does public media become a trusted ally and an important deliverer of images that will inspire young children to learn and to reach their highest potential. We cannot do it alone. We need other partners, broadcast partners, parent associations, parents at home, preschool providers, and I believe the public media can be the glue that will keep this coalition together, and our children will benefit. And if we get it right in the U.S., we think the potential for getting it right in more places around the world will be even greater.
Okay, I want to talk about the test case that you're doing now. You're using tests with, for the example, the iPad to try to engage the children, not just in the living room, for example, but to have them engaged at their preschools and after-school care. Can you give us a sense of how the ratings have dropped or how to reach the children? You said it's very difficult to reach the children in a modern society. So how are you trying to reach out beyond the television set to have students engage beyond the television box and on the iPads, and how we can take that model as a case study internationally? First to Mel, and then I'll bring Robert into the conversation.
Okay. In 1969, when Sesame Street began in the U.S., its motivation and its purpose was to reach urban children in cities that were not getting a fair opportunity to have the skills that would prepare them to go to kindergarten. Now, this was one of the two programs that has sustained that came out of the Great Society era of President Lyndon Baines Johnson. Now, at that time, most children...
That does happen in television. It does happen in media. So we got
my children were watching Sesame Street. 80% of the children of the preschool children were at home. Fast forward today, my grandchildren, they're out of home at age 3. They are in a daycare setting, and we think this is more typical of what's happening in our land. So most children at age 3 are not at home. Where is TV first? Where's their first connection with television? It is at home. So recognizing that they are no longer at home to get a broadcast of Sesame Street, most of them, 80% of them, where are they? They are in school. They are in a preschool. Some of them are half day, some of them are full day. So, challenge, how can we get Sesame Street where the children are? And our conclusion was we should package it in such a way that it could become a supplemental curriculum for that teaching that is already going on in preschool. How do we do it? We went out last summer of 2011, and again in summer of 2012, and did some tests in 3 locations in the U.S. And we took our assets and created moving pictures that could supplement an existing curriculum teaching particular math and science concepts. The findings are phenomenal. Children engaged more. The example you gave of your son, 9 years old, getting them tools that could work, finger gestures on an iPad, engage them in learning and even self-teaching, and went further to show how children can teach other children, a different model. So we are continuing to work and refining that to see what kind of a library of assets could we create to make learning more individualized in these settings. One further point. The teachers' reaction to this has been, again, phenomenal. They found that this is an aid, a supplement to what they are already doing, but it's also a vehicle where professional development for them can be provided, again, using the iPad. So we're looking for technology, and we're working on technology using an iPad where the teacher has it with the lesson plans and the video of what to be used in the lesson, where the teacher can connect with parents as to what the child has done today in school, where the children could see other children doing what they're doing, and we think this kind of a model will connect adults, teachers with children and learning, and then technology will permit a measurement of what they're learning so that they can get more of what they need and less of what they don't need. Then, if you could bring games into this equation, we think we can transform preschool education throughout the world.
Thanks, Mel. Let me follow up with Robert here then locally. You've taken the Sesame Workshop content into almost 30 markets around the world. Do you localize it? Do you work with a partner to localize it? And what are different models that you've used? I see there's $45 million in royalties that go to the Sesame Workshop bottom line. That obviously includes the United States, but also $30 million for fees and content distribution. So there's a business model behind this, but how have you taken it internationally and transferred it market to market?
Well, there's two things to note here. We certainly create a tremendous amount of content in the United States, which we distribute in a very traditional media business model. On the other hand, what we also know is that children learn best in their cultural context. We know that children learn best in their language and the tongue of their mother. So very soon after Sesame Street launched in 1969, I believe it was Germany, Mexico, Brazil, came to us and they said, how do we actually benefit from what you have created? Instead of exporting a program, exporting Big Bird in essence, what we proposed was create your own Big Bird, create your own curriculum, create your own content, bring together, in essence, replicate the Sesame model of bringing educators together and bringing the creative community together and creating a program from scratch and follow a blueprint of how to do it rather than taking hours. So what's happened in 30 different countries around the world, we have found local partners. And typically my work is to bring together government, educators, media companies, the creative community, to come together and to create a local version of Sesame Street. So many examples abound. In India, there is a large lion who is the Boomba, who is India's Big Bird. And he has become the iconic figure for education in India.
Did the studies show that Big Bird wouldn't work in India, or they wanted to create something completely different?
The point was to create characters that represent the national character of that particular country. So, for example, in South Africa, in 2002, as we were doing the program, the educators, the creators came to us and they said, the biggest issue facing our country is HIV and AIDS. Our teachers are dying, our parents are dying, our kids are orphaned. How can we address this particular issue? By convening people from UNAIDS, from local health professionals. We created a new character by the name of Cami, whose backstory is that she is HIV positive and not symptomatic. She is a girl in order to counteract, because there are so many young women who are affected with HIV and AIDS. And this character became an iconic figure on the Takalani Sesame, the South African version of Sesame Street. This is an example of how we localize content. This would never work in the United States, this would never work in many other parts of the world, but in South Africa it was a critical way of addressing a very, very specific need. That is the reason why we localize it, to address local needs.
And being flexible to achieve it. We're very passionate, of course, as a network about the Middle East with our Operation Abu Dhabi and the weekly Marketplace Middle East program. Are you going to create Sesame Street for the Arab world? What's on the cards here? I know there's demand for it. Do you look at the market as a wider market of 350 million consumers, like others try to market to?
We have a very proud history in the Middle East. Many of you in the audience will know Defterios Simpson, which was produced...
Robert, do not curb your enthusiasm.
That's the boss speaking.
So we have, in 1979, we produced Defterios Simpson. Many of you, Mel mentioned Electra Company. Many of you will remember Al Manahel, which was an adult literacy program, which was a remake of Electra Company in the Middle East, produced in Jordan. Most recently, we've produced a program in Egypt, in Palestine, and in Jordan. And we are in discussions to bring back a new version of Sesame Street for the Gulf in particular. So yes, this is a very, very important part of our international strategy, and we believe there's a tremendous need here that we can fill with Arabic language content to help on a number of issues. We have, in fact, created a curriculum already, and my good friend Dr. Ali Al-Karni is in the audience from the Arab Bureau of Education, who last year convened a seminar that brought together 80 educators from around the region to create a curriculum. And we are now in the process of developing a model where that curriculum will be created into local Arabic content that addresses critical needs like Arabic language learning, like health issues, like respect and understanding. So this is very much a process, and we are very much looking forward to launching a new version of Sesame Street here very soon.
Okay, Mel, I'm watching the clock, and our time is up. So I just want to ask you a very quick question, if I can, here, and to try to get a quick reply, because they've been
Robert,
very
John
diligent.
mentioned, if you can hear me.
Yeah, go ahead. I just want to ask one quick question. Looking at the revenue base here of $122 million, in a sense, you could be seeing greater revenues.
John mentioned the federal support that Sesame gets. It might be important to point out that one of the reasons we get that kind of support is so that the working model of Sesame, local, can be taken other places. But one of the things that I think is of great promise here is there federal subsidy, or are we getting USAID funds in order to do the project that you are now working on?
Okay, very good. We'll leave it there only because of time, but I appreciate, Melvin, thanks for participating from afar. We'd like to see you in Abu Dhabi for next year. We do appreciate the Abu Dhabi Media Summit bringing you in via satellite, so we didn't miss the latest on the debate taking place in the United States. And Robert, thanks for joining in and also providing the international perspective and the local perspective here for the Arab world. A round of applause for both of those participants.
Thank you.
Bye, Mel.
Thank you, Robert and John, and Mel in New York. We all look forward to many years of Big Bird and more